The world had gone quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the heavy, unsettling silence that follows something unnatural. 3 days earlier, the sky had turned black at noon. The earth had trembled. And a man, just a man they said, had died like a criminal. But nothing about his death felt ordinary. Jerusalem was restless. Rumors spread like wildfire through narrow streets and crowded markets. The body is gone. The tomb is empty. He has risen. The Roman authorities could not afford chaos. The Jewish leaders could not afford belief. So they called for a man who didn't believe in rumors. A man who believed only in facts. A Roman tribune, Clavius. A soldier hardened by war. A man who had seen death countless times, and knew one thing for certain: dead men don't rise. Pilate's voice was cold, controlled. Find the body. That was it. No room for speculation. No room for failure. Clavius understood the stakes. If this resurrection rumor spread, it could ignite rebellion, and Rome crushed rebellion without mercy. So he began his investigation, not as a believer, but as a hunter. Before he could find the body, he had to revisit the death. Clavius stood once more at Golgotha, the Hill of Skulls. The memory was still fresh. 3 crosses, 2 criminals screaming in agony, and one man in the center, Jesus. He hadn't cursed. He hadn't begged. Instead, he spoke words that made no sense to a soldier. Father, forgive them. Forgive them? Clavius had seen men die. They died in rage, in fear and desperation. But this man died in peace. And when he breathed his last, the earth shook. Even hardened soldiers had stepped back. Something about that moment felt like the world itself had reacted. Clavius arrived at the tomb. The stone was rolled away. The seal broken. The guards? Gone. Terrified. When he found them, they spoke like men who had seen a ghost. There was a light. A presence. We felt like dead men. Clavius didn't like it. Soldiers don't speak like that. Not trained Roman guards. Something had shaken them to their core. Inside the tomb, there was no body. Only folded linen cloths. Neat. Undisturbed. As if the man who was wrapped in them had simply stepped out. Clavius hunted down the followers of Jesus. Fishermen. Tax collectors. Ordinary men. Not revolutionaries. Not warriors. Yet they spoke with unsettling certainty. He is alive. Not we think. Not we hope. We have seen him. Clavius pressed harder. Where is he? They didn't hide. They didn't run. Instead they smiled, as if they carried a secret too powerful to fear death. That made no sense. Men don't face Rome without fear. Unless they believe something stronger than Rome itself. Then came the moment. The one Clavius could not explain. He found them, hidden in a room. The disciples. He pushed the door open, ready to arrest them. But then, he saw him, Jesus, alive. Not a ghost. Not a vision. Flesh. Breathing. Standing. The same man who had been crucified. Now alive before his eyes. Clavius froze. Every instinct as a soldier told him this was impossible. And yet, there he was. Jesus turned and looked at him. Not with anger. Not with accusation. But with a calm, knowing gaze. As if he saw through the armor. Through the rank. Straight into the soul of a man who had spent his life believing only what he could control. Everything Clavius believed began to collapse. Rome taught him power was everything. Control. Force. Dominion. But here stood a man who had been killed by Rome, and yet stood alive without raising a sword. What kind of power was this? Power that didn't conquer by force, but overcame death itself. Clavius didn't arrest him. He couldn't, because in that moment, he wasn't facing a criminal. He was facing truth. Clavius walked away, but he was no longer the same. He couldn't sleep. The image haunted him. The empty tomb. The fearless disciples. The risen man. His mind fought it. This cannot be real. But his eyes had seen it. And once you see something like that, you can't unsee it. Clavius returned one last time. He watched from a distance as Jesus stood with his followers. There was no army. No throne. No crown. Just a group of ordinary people. and a man who had defeated the grave. Clavius realized something that changed everything. If Jesus truly rose, then death is not the end. If death is not the end, then Rome is not the ultimate power. And if Rome is not the ultimate power, then everything he had lived for was built on sand. History would never record his full story. Rome would move on. Empires would rise and fall. But one truth would remain. A tomb was found empty. A body was never recovered. And lives were changed forever. Because one man, who was crucified, was seen alive again. And the question that haunted Clavius still echoes today. What if it's true? What if the grave really was defeated? What if death really lost its power? And what if the man on that cross is still alive? Type "Thank you, Jesus Christ. Through his death we are set free." Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.